Hi everybody, I'm Greg Roark with Redbird Flight Simulations, and today I want to show you how to put together one of our desktop simulator tables. We use these tables for our J Velocity desktop units, for our TD and TD2 desktop flight simulators, as well as some of our alloy products. And we use these tables primarily because they're beefy, and these tables are built for our simulators. You'll notice that there's something a little bit unique about these tables in the fact that they are relatively robust here when it comes to the top of the table, and they have legs here that extend forward beyond the edge of the table here so that it keeps all of our desktop units from resisting that temptation to maybe tip if you're using a TD or a TD2 with the Horizon kit, because the Horizon kit has 3 screens and everything would mount here on the front edge of this table, and it can get to be a little front heavy. That's why the legs are offset. So let's go back and let's show you how we got here. So now that we have the box that contains this table roughly about where we want it, now we're going to go ahead and open this box and then start assembling this table. You'll notice that the box has kind of a clamshell top to it, so it's kind of important to lay this table down on the floor so that the bottom is on the downside, and then you can open the top flap of the box for the table up here, just kind of like the old piano hinge type of thing. A couple of other things to think about is where you want to put this table. So again, remember that you're going to be putting some of our desktop simulator on it, whether it's going to be a J, it may be a TD, a TD2, it could even be some of our alloy components that you're going to be putting on this table. So you want to think about your power considerations, you want to think about your internet considerations, you want to think about spacing through here as well. So those are some of the things that you think about when you set up this table. The reason that you want to think about this is because once you get this table assembled, taking it out of a standard door can be a trick. So you need to just kind of think that through. It's not that big a deal if you need to take the legs off and move the table. You can certainly do that. But if you can solve that problem before you need to, that may be the way to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open up the top of this box and let's see what we got. So here as we open the top, one of the things that you'll see here when you look is that you're going to find the actual instructions here on how to build the actual table. And guys, honestly, there aren't that many parts to it, so this is not a real complex task. The one thing I will say is that you may want to have 2 people for this process. I'm just going to do it here by myself, and the only reason being is because of the fact that I've done this 100 times. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. So sometimes people will ask, what type of tools do I need to put this table together? Well, this is it right here. A 5/32 Allen wrench or hex key. That's all you need, and we even give one to you. So you have the 5/32 hex key here, or if you do have some additional tools and you like a 5/32 bit on, let's say, some form of a little handheld driver, I would not recommend an actual drill driver for this because you can over torque some of these things pretty easy. But if you have one that you want to put a little 5/32 bit in one of the actual handheld drivers or handheld screwdrivers, that's just fine too. One of the things that I try to think of before I build something is, what do I do if I have to unbuild it? Will I remember how to take it apart and put it back in the box? For that reason, I strongly recommend that you take pictures of the box as you open it to, number one, label the contents of whatever it may be, but to also give you this pictorial guide about how everything is wrapped and how everything is put back in the box so that you can put it back in the box if you have to. So right now, I'd be taking some pictures. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the legs out of the table here and I'm going to set them aside. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the top of the table out of the box. It's important to think about the surface that you're putting the top on. If you have a hard floor, you might consider putting a blanket or some kind of pad down before you put the actual top of the table, because we're going to build this upside down and then turn it over. So just keep that in mind. Now, one thing I want to show you here is that I'm sure you've noticed here on the back of the table, you'll see that you have these two angle braces here on the sides, but you also have a piece right here where you have a piece of metal used as reinforcement. This is the front portion of your table here with this metal reinforcement. Why do we have a metal reinforcement here at the front part of this table? It's because of the fact that when you mount specifically a TD or a TD2 on the front of this table, they're pretty front heavy, and it puts a pretty good load on the front of these tables. And it's one of the reasons why we really recommend to customers that they use our tables to put their desktop on. You could put this on some other type of a sturdy desk if you have one, but it better be pretty sturdy, and these tables are. So just keep in mind this element here with this metal on it is going to be the front. The other side is going to be the back, so this would be the one that would potentially be against the wall. And then these angle iron pieces are going to be the ones where we attach the legs. So with the table upside down in the floor, I'm now going to attach the legs. One thing I want to show you about the legs is this. If you'll notice the legs, you'll see that you have an angled portion here to the leg, and then you have a vertical portion here. The angled portion goes to the front. So the angled portion is going to be on the end where the metal piece runs to the front of the table. So in this case, with the metal piece over here next to me, the legs are going to be attached like this. And when we attach them, we're going to attach them to the outside portion of the angle piece for the table. So I'll put the screw in from the inside to connect the leg through the holes that they have on both sides of the leg. But the big thing here is just to remember that this angled piece is the front. While I have the legs like this, it's also, I wanted to point out here, the adjustability that you have of the feet. This allows you to level the table, and that's pretty important as well, is once you get this table set, you want to make sure it's level. And so the feet allow you to do that. And with this now, what I'm just using a hand driver, and I have a 5/32 bit in it. It's just easier for me, and it's just kind of what I'm used to using. Once you get the screws where you want them and you get the legs right, don't just gorilla these things down. Just snug them up just a little bit, but wait until you have everything assembled before you go back through once again to tighten everything up. Now that I have the legs on, I'm actually going to turn the table to the back side. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the back brace and the actual rudder stop plate on these legs as well. It's indicated in your instructions, pretty easy to do. Here we go. Now that I have the main brace plate on in the back, I'm going to turn it over, and then I'm going to put the rudder stop plate on because it's easier to put the screws in from the top. As we're putting the rudder stop plate on, it's also important to know that the flat side will go toward the rudders. So the piece that you have the angle is going to go to the wall. This will face your actual rudder pedals. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to make sure that I snug up, not just really over tighten, but just snug up all of the screws that I put in. And that's all there is to it. Now, we have a table set up right here for either a TD, a TD2, a J, or even some of the alloy units. I hope you found this little tutorial useful. I'll see you on the next video.